Welcome back to this special edition of the Branding Your Business podcast. My name is Praise Santos McKenna. I'm your host and the founder of the branding studio Complum here in San Francisco, California. We have a special series that we're kicking off. It's part of the Personal Brand Summit series. We talk a lot about branding here on the podcast, and a personal brand is a really interesting part of branding as a whole. And so we get a lot of questions about it, and we wanted to focus on it. So I brought together some of my closest, wisest, smartest friends who specialize in personal branding, who are from TV, who are experts in LinkedIn, who have backgrounds in PR and public speaking, to teach you how to upgrade your thought leadership and thus your personal brand. And today I'm going to kick off the summit with talking about three things: what a personal brand is and isn't, the intersection of our businesses and our personal brands, and lastly, the benefits of personal brands. And along the way, I'll give you some examples of personal brands you might know, and also a few frameworks and types of personal brands that you can look to as guidelines or as models. So let's get started. Okay, so what is a personal brand and what is it not? Well, let me give you this disclaimer, is that everyone has a personal brand. It's all about putting intention behind it. Some of you have gotten my email about when I was 24 years old, opening an investment account, having automatic deposits into that account, but not learning until years later that I had to actually buy funds with the account. So then it was just sitting there. Sure, it was getting like a few 1 to 4% interest, but it wasn't making the 7 to 10% that it should have been making as a retirement fund. But that's what happens with personal brands, is that often people have a brand. It's your reputation. It's what people associate you with. You have that brand already, but oftentimes you're not putting intention or power around it. And so that's what a personal brand is. It's what you are known for. It's your reputation. And so if you already have one, why don't we give it some power? Why don't we give it some oomph? Why don't we use it for our benefit? Why don't we use it to better serve the world? A big heart of us rebooting this personal brand summit, we did it back in 2022. The big heart of it is that I really believe that there are so many voices out there, so many people with wisdom and expertise, and the world needs what you've got. We truly do. We want to learn from you. But oftentimes we are held back by our own fears, our own anxieties. We're oftentimes our own boulder in the way of our path forward. And the thing is, it's not about celebrity or like, okay, well, let me like build my personal brand and get really famous. No, it's more about service. I know we're talking a lot about thought leadership, but I really want to emphasize thought servant leadership. It's truly about showing up. It's truly thinking about, okay, I can make the world a better place by looking at my past experience and my expertise, and with a servant attitude, sharing it with the world so that others can learn, so that others can benefit from it. That is a mindset I want us to have during this summit. This is a mindset that I want to see more businesses and brands have, because I believe our world would be a better place if we have more thought servant leaders. So you have a personal brand. We're going to put intention around it, and that's what we're going to do during this summit. Okay, someone who does this well, a good example is Marie Forleo. You might know her. She has helped a lot of other folks build brands and businesses online, and she has a very like coachy vibe. She walks alongside you, she asks you the right questions, and she also opens up things about her personal life and past experiences to do that. She's an entrepreneur, she is a founder, and that's a bit of her personal brand. So that's someone we look up to as an example of someone who has put intention around her personal brand. Secondly, what we're going to talk about is the intersection of our personal brands and also the brands and businesses we lead. Praise, what is the difference? How personal should I get? What does it mean for me to have a personal brand and also be the founder of a company? Or maybe I don't even have a company. What if it's just me trying this thing out? What do those two have to do together? How do they relate? Excellent question. So our personal brands can be used to really power the things that we lead, to draw more attention to the things that we're passionate about. I remember back in 2020, I was able to use some of my personal platforms to raise a lot of money for masks and other protection for people who are on the front lines during the COVID pandemic, right? That was like a great use of my personal brand and my personal influence. And that crossed over to a lot of what I cared about. My mom is a nurse, she was working in a hospital, and I used a lot of our email lists and even our business social media to do that. And so that was a bit of my personal life, blending a bit with my business life. And you can find a lot of a Venn diagram or gray space when it comes to your personal brands and business brands. But here's the thing, I want to remind you that as a person listening to this, you contain multitudes. It would be hard for me to describe you in just one or two words. You are a dynamic, juicy person. And when it comes to our personal brands and when it comes to putting intention around it, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. What will serve our audience? And what do we actually like talking about? What could we talk about that really lights us up that we could talk about all day? For me, I do love talking about brand. For me, I do love to serve people and see communities thrive. And so that's why I'm doing the summit. That's why you see me show up here. Some of those topics start to become my pillars. And that's what I want you to think about too. What are 3 or 4 pillars, also known as topics, that you could consider yourself an expert on, that people come to you for advice for already? A personal brand will start to focus and have intention about a few things. Again, even though you as a person, praise as a person contains multitudes, when it comes to the online space, when it comes to being a brand ambassador for our business and our branding studio, often focus on just a few topics and going deep on those rather than trying to do like the whole enchilada. And so that's one of the best ways to think about the intersection of your personal brand and your business and why they can benefit each other and why they're kind of different. Again, as a business, it could speak as its own entity and also have 3 or 4 topics it focuses on as well. And there can be a lot of crossover too. Okay, someone who does this well, and you probably know her as a personal brand, is Jenna Kutcher. Jenna Kutcher talks a lot about business, but she talks a lot about her personal life, what it's like to grow up in the Midwest, to be a mother. She used to talk a lot about body image as well, because that affected her and a lot of other entrepreneurs too. So she blends all those things together. She is probably more of a model if Marie Forleo is a coach. Jenna Kutcher is more of the influencer, see different parts of my life kind of model. Maybe that resonates with you. Maybe you want to be an open book. Maybe one of your pillars is my personal life, which is like a big topic, or my family life, which can also be a big topic. So it can be as niche or as broad as you want. And these are some good examples of personal brands. Okay, lastly, we're going to be talking about the benefits of cultivating and investing in your personal brand. First of all, it creates connection. People don't hire businesses, they hire people, they choose people. They want that emotional connection. In a world of AI and a lot of generated content, you showing your face, you being human, talking about the human experience in whatever field you find yourself in, will help remind humans that we are on this journey together. It'll serve the world in a better place when you have that emotional, deeper connection. Secondly, you'll become the go-to expert for this topic too. When someone is talking about maybe your pillar is wellness, maybe it's mental health, maybe it's finance, you suddenly become the face and go-to because you start talking about the same thing over and over, and you can become a person of service in that aspect. You can save people time, stress, headache, and money because you're teaching them how to do it better. That'll make our world a better place. So it's about serving others. It's about making that human emotional connection. Perhaps one of the things you talk about is something you're really passionate about and something that you want to see change in our world. So another third example of a personal brand is the title of advocate, right? So we have the coach, the influencer, the advocate. Someone who does this well is Miki Agrawal, who is the founder of Thinks, which is a period product company for those who have periods. And she used her personal brand. She showed up as the face of Thinks so that she can highlight things like gender disparity, women's rights, and people who have uteruses too. And so her passion and her expertise brought more justice to the space. It brought more awareness to the space. And perhaps there is something that you're an expert on. Maybe there's something that you are so passionate about. Maybe it's about foster care. Maybe it's about bringing justice to our criminal system. Whatever it is, you using your voice matters. You using your voice can add more to the conversation that the world is having about this topic, and you can actually bring change about it. These benefits, I hope, compel you that it is worth it to build your personal brand. It is worth it to show your face more online. It is worth it to share your opinions, to engage in this larger conversation. Not only will it benefit your business, your professional life, and your career, but it can really be a service to others. It can help people feel less alone, and it can bring visibility to a cause you really care about. Again, some examples that we talked about was maybe you're more of the coach, maybe you're more of the influencer, maybe you're more of the advocate. Whatever these models or guidelines that resonate with you, take that into account as we go through the summit. Take that into account as we flow through the rest of the episodes within this series. I really hope it helps you. So let me give you a preview of what's in store. So we have Roz Miller Choice talking about the importance of crafting an authentic story. So if you need help putting together your bio or bringing in more stories into your work, you're going to want to listen to her episode later today. Then we also have Amy, who will talk about PR. We will have Trish, who will talk about using your personal brand to show up on LinkedIn. And we'll have Allison, who will talk about public speaking, how to even talk with your hands, whether in person or video. It's about more platforms that need your voice. It's about more platforms that need your opinion, more platforms that could use your service and your expertise. And then I'll come back on to help you wrap it all up with helping you create this media kit one pager. As a podcast host, as someone who's been on a lot of podcasts and made media appearances, a tool like this is really helpful for someone to get an overview of who you are, of who you serve, what you're about, of the topics that you love to speak on, and how they can reach out to you and what next steps are. We'll take all that we learned from the summit to get this really actionable, juicy thing that you can use to help elevate your thought leadership and build a more impactful thought servant leadership mindset personal brand. I'm so excited to have you here on the summit with me. Keep your eyes here on the Facebook group as we'll be sharing these videos as they come live. And I can't wait to see what personal brands you cultivate.